Good evening, Sunana. Good evening, Mohit, and good evening to all of us who are joining in on day three, the grand finale of Voyage 2021, the digital edition. We're here to talk about what the fixed income as well as the credit market is going to look like in the year ahead. But before anything else, I have with me two experts joining in. So let me try and understand what exactly is their way of functioning, what are the key areas that they function on, and how's their style as a portfolio manager? Because each of them actually differ from another. So Nana, ladies first, so why don't you go ahead and tell our viewers a little bit about the funds that you manage and what's your style of functioning?
So I look at primarily the credit funds as well as some funds in the short-term space. And I also look at credit overall for Aditya Birla Mutual Fund. The way we build portfolios is in fixed income, you actually have three levers, which would be the lever of liquidity, the lever of duration, and the lever of credit. Now, these three levers, are all that you play with in fixed income. Liquidity, of course, is something that is a very short-term view because creating liquidity too early or too late can be extremely expensive. As far as duration is concerned, that's where our macro overview and overlay comes in. All that Kaustubh discussed in the previous session, but that with a valuation overlay as well. And then when we look at credit, now that's some place where you need to be very careful because exit is not very easy, particularly as we've seen in the last 2 years. It's been fairly tumultuous in terms of credit markets. All portfolios that we have a core portfolio as well as the satellite portfolio. The core portfolio will reflect the the long-term view and vision that you have for your fund and as per the mandate, and so it will have your core credit as well as some portion of liquidity. The way we look at the satellite portfolio, that's what we have where the tactical calls are taken, where the opportunistic calls are taken, which would be a little bit of duration as well as the frictional liquidity that you'll have. So at all points of time, this is the way we actually playing on these three levers that we have of liquidity, credit.
Mohit, hi, good evening. Folks tracking equity are keeping their fingers crossed that inflation shouldn't really bar and hamper the low interest rate regime. But given that your expertise is in interest rates, tell us a little bit about your portfolio style.
So I broadly track a lot of macro parameters, both domestically as well as globally, and based on that, we have some kind of understanding of how growth will pan out, how inflation will pan out, and what kind of interest rate trajectory would be there in terms of policy rates globally and domestically. And based on those things, we take a slightly longer term call in terms of interest rates, like Sunena mentioned, the second lever duration. And for the smaller technical calls, we do a lot of technical studies like buying, selling, which there are certain in fixed income markets there are regulatory buyers and then there are discretionary buyers. So based on the demand and supply, there can be technical calls that can be taken, but they are relatively on the smaller time frame. And like Sunena mentioned, there are certain credit funds also that come, that I happen to manage. There, of course, you have to be very. Those calls are slightly longer term, as Sunena pointed out, because once there is anything happening, even if any hint comes out regarding any hint of any news on a credit, then suddenly this thing, the credit starts moving, and after a point becomes very, very liquid. So based on those factors, we have to take a call on managing the funds. So my style broadly is fundamental and then tactical calls based on various market analytics that we do and underweight, overweight versus the peer set.
Sure. So, Mohit, since you're the more macro guy, let's set the context and the landscape that we're currently in, be it fixed income or equities for that matter. And, like I earlier mentioned, interest rates being a low regime is really sort of aiding, liquidity and many other factors. In the last policy, the governor seemed very clear that the central bank is going to do whatever it takes to try and support growth in the economy, even if it be at the cost of inflation, even though right now it seems pretty much under control. What is your own sense on how long we're going to cherish this low interest rate regime?
Yeah, so if we just look at, like interest rates change, like the investor behavior change. Similarly, there are waves of economic thoughts that come across, and then after a few decades, a new economic thought comes in. So the new economic thought, the recent economic thought that is prevailing world over is that you can borrow a lot, you can continue to borrow, and the only binding constraint in terms of your borrowing limit is inflation. Until the time you see inflation, you can continue to borrow and stimulate the economy. And if you are not stimulating the economy and you are keeping certain part of your labor force unemployed, that is considered as negative in today's economic thought. So with that context, I believe that firstly, the view on inflation is that right now, globally anyways, there is no problem of inflation. Inflation, right now is only a concern which is a domestic concern. Globally, it's the other way around. People are trying to get inflation, but they are not, till now they have not been able to get it. But domestically, recent past, we had seen 6-7 high prints wherein the numbers came 6+. But it was predominantly food inflation, and now we seem to have kind of controlled it. And going forward, also, I think terms of trade adjustment is over. I think it will now favor us. It will work in our favor. MSP has not been increasing so much now, and our production has been growing at very, very good rate. So broadly, there is a push on the lower side on the food inflation. On the core inflation, it was not a problem even last year. It was always around 4.5 to 5% if you look at core. And I think that will remain the case this year as well. So I think the inflation is not going to cause any worry, at least for next 12 months. That's as far as we can see right now, given so many uncertainties in the economy. And based on that, given the RBI's stance and focus on growth, we do not see any big move in terms of policy rates. Maybe 6 to 9 months minimum till anything happens on reverse repo, and 12 month plus till anything in repo. So that is what we see right now.
Right. Sunena, if I could come to you, when it comes to the credit market, we've seen a lot of, jolts ever since the IL&FS crisis. Is it safe to assume, and would it even be a prudent sort of line of thinking to assume that the worst is behind us? Or would you say that the picture out, ahead of us is still very much hazy?
I think very much so the worst is behind us. In fact, over the last 6 or 7 months, we've seen a relative period of calm in the credit markets. You're right. Last 2 years have been, fairly volatile post IL&FS default, because it was followed by a series of defaults thereafter. And a lot of them, AAA rated names. There was the NBFC crisis. Asset prices, went for toss. A lot of large groups went for a toss. And I think post the economic lockdown that we saw post the pandemic, that is when, I think we peaked in terms of the credit crisis in our country. Because post that, the combined actions taken by both RBI as well as by the FinMin has ensured that, there's ample liquidity available in the system. There have been targeted TLTROs. RBI has cut rates very dramatically and tried to ensure that there is, a liquidity available at low rates to companies. FinMin on its part has also done its bit, with the guarantee scheme. It's propped up the MSME sector, and through various other measures, including PLI, they've tried to ensure that the economy gets back to that buoyant trajectory that we potentially could be on. So that once the economy is back, and we've seen that, the green shoots are there, and we are back on a fairly buoyant path now. Once the economy is back buoyant, you'll see that, that rising tide will lift all boats. And the companies have been taking advantage of the low rates, have been taking advantage of the plentiful liquidity to heal themselves, reduce the debt, replace high cost debt with cheap debt that's available. And since we believe that RBI will continue with this policy of, allowing large amount of liquidity to remain in the system for a long period of time, we believe that there'll be ample time for markets to heal. And we've seen that in terms of the results that have been coming out. The Q3 results also have been testimony to the fact that, there is a lot of buoyancy, there's a lot of recovery. Look at the kind of low levels of restructuring that, under the KV Kamath guidelines that the bankers have been announcing. That in itself tells us that, things are fairly stable now in credit markets, and I think they will be for a while to come.
Okay. Mohit, Sunaina is convinced that after a very volatile last 2 years, the credit markets are in a good place. But tell me, what are high frequency indicators pointing towards? Are we in for a good go from here onwards, or would you think there could be some more stumbles to come?
So, slowly we have started seeing high frequency indicators, moving up. The PMI has been, around 55 mark for last 4-5 months. The power consumption has started going up. The GST collections are printing all-time high numbers. The e-way bill 10% kind of year on 10% kind of growth. So high frequency indicators have started showing the green shoots, and I think going forward we will see more and more of it, simply because the government has decided to go a slightly different path compared to what it had done, in last 5-6 years. Just to give you a context, the fiscal deficit that the central government ran for last 5 years was around 3.5%, but the trajectory for next 5 years will average around 5.5%. So that's 2% of GDP extra, and that is only central government. Now, if central government does so much of infra investment, then it will crowd in the private investment as well. So both of it put together, it looks positive for the near as well as medium term. If you add to that the kind of policies where we are investing, where we are actually, the policies that we are, going ahead with, like PLI, that which is going to get some kind of, the money into the country, then your corporate taxes are lower, then your interest rates are lower, then your ease of doing business, that parameter, right now, we have been going down on the rankings, as in we have been better than every previous year. So everything put together, I think now the stage is set. And banking sector has seen last 4-5 years of cleanup, and now balance sheets are ready to roar and do a credit extension. So I think broadly, the green shoots have started coming, and there is enough platform for the economy to start doing well.
We'll just come back to Aisha. I think she's dropped out. But Sunaina, just wanting to come to you also on the thoughts. So just the way ahead, what's like this 2021, and our theme is the rise of the new decade. But okay, Aisha's back. Aisha, back to you. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies for that bad bandwidth. But, Mohit, just to follow up to the point that you were earlier making, while you've set the landscape for what we're going to see ahead, wanted to understand, a couple of things. We were earlier chatting about the large borrowing program. And, again, the point that we were discussing just the other day as to who's going to subscribe to it.
Yeah, so I mean that's a real issue right now. That right now we have got a large borrowing program, central government as well as state government. This year, the net borrowing is going to be somewhere around 17.5 trillion and gross borrowing 21 to 22 trillion. Next year, our estimate is that net borrowing will be somewhere around 16.5 trillion. And gross borrowing maybe around 21 trillion. So now there are, like I mentioned earlier, there are some regulatory buyers and then there are discretionary buyers. Regulatory buyers are like banks because they have to buy certain percentage of their NDTLs. Insurance companies, they have to buy certain percentage of SLR, out of their total investments. PFs also have certain regulatory limits. Pension funds have certain regulatory limits. So in our estimate, all of the regulatory buyers put together can absorb anywhere between 11 to 12 trillion of net borrowing. For the remaining 4 to 5 trillion, we need an external buyer. External buyer could be, the money from outside. Maybe we index ourselves. We add ourselves into the global indices and the money flows in, or FIS money come in, or we have RBI, participating as it has been very well doing and managing the borrowing program. So somebody has to come in our estimate, around 4 to 5 trillion of the extra amount has to be taken up by someone, and it looks like RBI will have to play a major role, and till now it's been doing a fantastic job, and I think the indications are that it will continue to do so. In next few years, when all these regulatory buyers are growing at 10 to 15% per annum, so if we wait for 2 to 3, 4 years, then obviously these guys will start buying that kind of number. But right now, they need some kind of support. The borrowing needs some kind of support. And, I think RBI has been doing a fantastic job, and I think they'll continue to support the borrowing.
Sure. So for equity market watchers like some of us, it's a very difficult time as, someone who's wanting to invest in fixed income, because purely you have such a great proposition in front of you, or for that matter, many other asset classes. Would you say that the runway ahead for fixed income as a product is looking smooth and more viable as opposed to some of the other asset classes?
So, within the fixed income space, within the overall, asset allocation, you will always generally, looking at your risk return profile, you will actually want to have, depending on it, of course, some amount, let's say, in fixed income. Now, within that fixed income space, the gains that we've seen, the capital gains that we've seen in terms of the duration gains of the last few months, I think that is well behind us. What we will now see going ahead as we move more and get more into normalization, is a little bit of volatility. But the very large amount of liquidity that the RBI has kept in the system will anchor the short-term rates, and the curve right now is extremely steep, and that will offer a lot of opportunity to investors. So, advice to investors is, if you don't mind the volatility, don't fear the volatility, and don't rush to short-term or liquid, just to escape the volatility. Take advantage of the opportunity that this ample liquidity and the steep curve is providing to you, and then position your fixed income schemes accordingly. So, for example, if you have, let's say a time horizon of at least, 6 to 7 months, then it may be better to be in an ultra short-term fund versus, let's say, a liquid fund. Let me give you an example. Our low duration fund, the yield to maturity differential between that fund and our liquid fund right now is about 125 basis points, and the differential in duration is about 0.7 years, which means for a break even between low duration and the liquid fund, you need yields to rise 15 basis points every month, which basically means you're talking about a 45 basis point rise in 3 months, and that's not definitely the kind of normalization we are looking at. And that Kaustubh would have guided for in the previous session. So that is the opportunity that somebody who wants to take advantage of the steep curve as well as the ample liquidity should do. Similarly, if you have, let's say, a holding horizon or a time period of about 1.5 year, then probably short-term fund is something that you should look at. The break even between a short-term fund and a low duration fund. Our short-term fund and our low duration fund is about 5 to 6 basis points every month as well. So, basis your risk return profile, basis your holding period profile, we have, a whole bouquet of funds to choose from. But our, advice to investors would be to opportunistically play this, the steep curve and the large amounts of liquidity that is there in the system, and take advantage of that and, play out that volatility.
Sure. Mohit, without making it sound like a tug of war between equities or fixed income, just wanted to get your sense on, what is your sense on where long end as well as short end interest rates are headed? Because I guess on the basis of that, the entire prognosis of fixed income investing would be based, a large part of it at least.
Yeah, so starting with short end, I think short end curves, short end rates would be well anchored, simply because RBI has given us guidance that it is going to continue to remain accommodative well into FY22. And I think the sequence is going to be, they will remove the accommodative stance, then they will do reverse repo, and then they will do repo. So they are going to be accommodative well into FY22. Then when they change the stance, after that they'll go and change the reverse repo, and then they will change the repo, and in the in somewhere in between they'll start withdrawing some liquidity as well. So short end by short end, if we say 2 to 3 year kind of up to 3 year kind of papers, then I think these rates, after recent VRR announcements, these rates have gone anywhere between 50 to 80 basis points higher from where they were in the first week of January. So now the rollover that you get, if you just hold the 2 year paper for 1 month, you make around 7 basis points just by holding it. So if you hold that paper for 1 year, you're making around 80 basis points. So right now, given the accommodative stance and the kind of liquidity servers that we have in the system, which is right now around 8 trillion rupees of excess systemic liquidity in the system, and it is going to be accretive given our view on big BOP surplus next year as well. It is going to be accretive, if nothing else, if no external thing is done, then it's going to be accretive. So huge liquidity surplus plus RBI accommodative. I think short end rates are providing very good opportunity to latch onto and sit on it. Just like Sunaina mentioned, that low duration fund, if you just hold it for 1 month, the break even is 15 basis points. It is simply because your 3 month NABARD versus 15 month NABARD, there is a 100 plus basis points kind of a difference. It's not as if you are buying NABARD and you're buying a double. You're buying the same thing just because curve is so steep, because somebody's got a liability next month or 2 months. So there's and market is volatile. Nobody wants to hold on to long end. If you've got a liability in 1 year, 1 month, 2 months, if you can hold on for 6 months, then obviously you are better off holding with respect to risk rewards on a slightly longer term. So short end is going to be anchored, is what our view is. Right now, 2 year and 3 year AAA PSUs are giving very good yields right now. I think this is the right opportunity to latch onto it. On the long end side, as we mentioned regarding the borrowing program, obviously the regulatory buying capability of the market is not as much. If we add some certain discretionary bias as well, they'll also make up some of it. But obviously some external person has to come in, some external institution has to come in and take up the rest of the supply. And as we have noticed in this financial year, RBI has been doing a fantastic job of managing the borrowing and anchoring the rates at 10-year around 6%. So I think it depends on how it is being borrowed, and my best guess would be it will be anchored simply because RBI has been very, very supportive. And if we look at the global context, right now we are, with 4.5 to 5% kind of real rates, we are still giving 100 to 150 basis points of real rate right now, whereas most of the world economies are giving you negative real rates. So once we are in the index, there is going to be, this is our view, our house view, that we are going to see good amount of flows once we have some kind of, listing in the index, simply because we are giving one of the best rates, best real rates in the world. So from the long-term perspective, that will take care of the extra buying.
Right. Sunana, you wanted to add something there? Okay, no. Mohit, I'm going to take a follow-up to what you're mentioning. Liquidity is clearly surplus within the banking system. Having said that, are there still concerns about liquidity, or for that matter, transmission of liquidity out of the banking system into the rest of the economy?
I think that was an issue that we saw sometime last year, or maybe last, just after credit crisis to, sometime till the end of calendar year 19 to early 20, we saw that kind of an issue. But RBI came in and started doing several measures wherein they did several measures to take care of the liquidity. They also targeted LTROs for different sections, and we saw AA over AAA spreads shoot up to 500 to 600 basis points in the month of April. And right now, they are back to 100 to 150 basis points, which is the long-term average. So, the spread contraction is to the tune of almost 350 to 400 basis points till the highs made in the April of 2020. So the monetary transmission is far, far better than what when we were stuck in the, let's call it a mini crisis. Right now, the situation is far better, as indicated by the spreads on the AA.
Right. So, Sunana, before we wind up, are the prospects looking bright for fixed income investments? Because all the viewers watching us right now would just have one question on their mind, whether or not they should increase allocation to fixed income.
So as I said, basis, your risk return profile, you would allocate various against the various asset classes. And I think coming up next, we'll have a very good session that will go more into that. But, as far as fixed income is concerned, I think the gains in duration are behind us. Ahead of us, we'll have a slight period of volatility, and investors should be opportunistic to take advantage of that and play that, a large amount of liquidity, steepness of the curve. Play that out. As I said earlier, your credit markets are, have come back to relative periods of calm. Fixed income portfolios have been de-risked. So if you look at it prior to, let's say June 2018, prior to the IL&FS default, mutual fund industry as a whole had about 80% exposure to AAA A1+. That figure today is over 90%. If you look at it at Birla Mutual Fund, we had about 75% exposure in June 2018 to a AAA A1+ kind of papers. Today, we're closer to about 93, 94%. So, investors, mutual fund participants, industry as a whole has de-risked portfolios. Regulator has made a lot of changes. So we've got the liquidity coverage ratio, which, ensures that at least 10% of the portfolio is invested in very liquid papers. And a host of other regulatory measures, which I think will be on the way. So, overall, I think, there's been a fair amount of de-risking that we've seen in portfolios and, with fairly calm credit markets. maybe the duration gains are behind us, but investors should opportunistically take advantage of the normalization and the steepness of the curve that exists.
Mohit, any closing thoughts?
So broadly, I would go back to the same thing that I mentioned, that even for the long term also, as in for even if you've got 4-year, 5-year money, then also I think what we are not realizing is our real yields are still 100 to 150 basis points positive, wherein the world is, I mean, more than half the world is giving negative real yields. So I would say that this is against the normal thought, but I think at some point we'll start attracting FI money, external money as well, and banking and index inclusion would help. So I mean that's a slightly contrasting view from the market.
That's quite an interesting view. But Sunaina, Mohit, thank you so much for taking your time out and trying to break it down as to how the fixed income as well as credit market is going to shape up in the year ahead.